The room, and let's see if we can get this gallery on the big screen. Gallery, what am I doing wrong? Things look, oh, here, view, that's what I need. View, okay, thank you. Which one do I click for it to be full screen?
Can you double click the little box?
The little box? Oh, I see what you're
When
saying.
you first.
That's what happens when things have changed. Somehow this, there we go. I single clicked it, it worked. Okay, here we go. Welcome everybody, Shabbat Shalom. Feels like every week is historic in some way.
Historically not good.
Historically not good? Well, yes, historically mixed maybe this week. So we had just to acknowledge what's in the atmosphere, and obviously I cannot name it all, but that the last hostage body came home, and that's a moment of relief and grief, and maybe a time to start grieving. I think since last Shabbat, the murder of Alex Preddy, the thousands of Iranian protesters who've been murdered. Does anyone else want to put anything in the room? And also there was another person that was murdered by ICE on New Year's Eve that's not so much on our radar, Keith Porter, who was murdered, as far as I understand, I know it might be contested, by an off-duty ICE agent.
Yeah, I want to add,
Yeah.
just reading in the paper how they've just changed the arrest warrant so the
I know.
ICE can just sweep people up.
Yes,
It's like,
they don't need a warrant. They didn't change the arrest warrant. They don't need a
they
warrant.
don't even need a warrant.
Yeah.
Just going to your home.
It's like how they round up, like ravages. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully, by the way, we have some information and kits here in case ICE shows up. So
Yeah, everyone take a kit. There's,
we have them there. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
it gives you information about what to do if you see ICE in the neighborhood.
So my roommate in college is a priest in St. Paul. And I should tell you that nobody there is getting tired, nobody is getting bored, nobody is getting depressed. It is a very engaged city right now, and they're not cold or, this will keep going. And, this is a tyrannical government that we have now. And, there's a group of people who are ready to defend it.
Thank you, Aaron.
The only thing I would add to that shared weight of carrying is how disappointing things continue to be in Australia in the shadow of Bondi. The Australian Open in tennis is always exciting, and it takes sport very seriously, but the winner of one of the wheelchair Paralympic tennis made a lovely speech where he dedicated his victory to the victims of Bondi, and people booed.
Really?
People didn't clap. People folded their arms.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This sanctimony of Jew hate masquerading as so-called anti-Zionism is very strong. And it's really upsetting to watch, and it just happened a couple days ago.
Yeah, thank you, Tomas. Especially since Bondi sort of falls off the radar. But how can we keep everything on the radar? Did people hear what Tomas said online?
Sort of. Just make sure for everyone in the room, to use a mic when you speak.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're, hi Susan, hi Ronnie, hi Devara, hi Craig, hi Richard, hi Lori. Good to see everybody. Okay, let's do the bracha and dive into the parsha. People in the room, you should have two sources. One source is coming. I think realized he had to make copies. Okay, everybody in cacophony. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. So what I'd like to do today is a little bit different, and we're going to look at the Parsha first, which is not different, and sort of become very familiar with the scene where the Israelites are like, at the sea, Egyptians at their back, and terrified because they don't know where to go, and sort of really become familiar with that, and a few pieces of commentary, not too much, and then go into a Nachman of Bratslav text, who sees that moment as a kind of map of consciousness. Like, how do we go forward when we feel beset internally? So it's really interesting, and it's a lesson in what, how Chassidut, how the Hasidic movement sort of, how they transform text to, not because they didn't believe that the events of the Torah happened, but they transformed it as an internal map for each generation, right? For each generation to sort of reckon with really being human and being Jewish. So that's what we're going to do. We'll see how it works. And we're going to start with the Parsha. Here we go. One second. Let's see if I can screen share. Not yet. Aha. Do you see it? Oops. Aha. Okay. So I called this trap, the space between the sea and the Egyptians. Where's that little box over there? Okay. So there the Israelites are. They left Egypt, and their problems are only beginning, not ending, right? And they already had the first Pesach, as if they were already free, but they haven't fully left Egypt, so that's confusing. Hi, Rachel. So let's see what happens. We're going to be competing with some noise next door, but I think it's okay. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God said to Moses, Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'yashuvu v'yachanu lifnei pi hachirot bein Migdol uven hayam lifnei Baal Tzafon nichecho tachanu al hayam. So God said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp before pi hachirot. If you translate that literally, it's the mouth of freedom. Right? And in fact, some of the commentaries say, actually we're going to see that commentary, so I won't go into it yet. And between Migdol, which is a tower, and sometimes the name of God, which is interesting, and the sea, and before Baal Tzafon, which is the name of an Egyptian god, you shall encamp facing it by the sea. So it's hard not to read this moment as entirely symbolic, right? Facing the mouth of freedom, this tower of strength, like between this mount of freedom and a tower of strength, and between the sea and this Egyptian god, right? And it's like, which way do you go? Can you go forward? So I'm going to look at Rashi for a second and see what he does with this. V'yachanu lifnei pi hachirot. Hu pitom. So he's saying here that this is, pi hachirot is usually called pitom, or pitom Ramses, according to the Midrash. This is the next source on your page. V'achshav nekra pi hachirot al shem shena'asu sham b'nei chorim. And now it's called the mouth of freedom. Why? Because there they became free people. So that's really interesting, because what Rashi's saying, and the Midrash before him, is that place names are contextual. They depend on what's happening right there. Did you want to say something, Connor?
No.
No, okay. V'hem shnei tzla'im gvohim z'gufim v'hagai shebenehem karui pi ha'sla'im. And they were two precipitous rocks. So I did a little research on this, and it seems like they were actually, that something in that geographical area were lookout places. and the valley between them was called the mouth opening of the rocks. Okay, so Lifnei Baal Tzafon, before the Baal, or the master of Tzafon, Hu Nish'ar Mikol Elohei Mitzrayim Kidei Lahat Otan. So this is what remained from all the Egyptians' gods, and that Egyptian god is there in order to mislead them or make them make a mistake. Sheyomru Kasha Yiratam. That they should say that their God was a difficult one to overcome. In other words, it appeared to them as like a terrible obstacle. The Alav Peresh Eov. So there's a quote, there's a verse or a few words in Eov, in the book of Job, that says, Mazgi Lagoyim V'Abdem. He causes the nation to err. So what Rashi is saying is that verse there is referring to this moment, that this Baal Tzafon will cause the Israelites to make a mistake in that critical moment. Okay, so there's the sort of symbolism of where they're perched, which actually really makes sense when we look at the Hasidic text, that they would understand this symbolically and as an internal state, not only an external state. V'amar Paro livnei Yisrael nivuchim heim ba'aretz sagar aleim hamidbar. And Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, they are stray in the land. The wilderness has closed in on them. In other words, they're vulnerable. V'chizakti et lev Paro v'radaf Acharehem v'ikavda b'Paro b'chol chelo v'yad'u Mitzrayim ki ani Adonai v'yasu ken. Then I will stiffen Pharaoh's heart, or strengthen it, or make it, hard, rigid, and he will pursue them, that I may gain glory through Pharaoh and all his hosts, and the Egyptians shall know that I am God. So the two critical verbs in that verse are ikavda, right? I will gain glory through. So it has in the root in that verb is kaf vet dalet, to make heavy, or also a root meaning to respect, right? So because Pharaoh did not give glory to God, now God will be glorified through, right? Through what happens to Pharaoh and through the punishment that God will visit on Pharaoh. And what's interesting is that, you'll see this a little bit later, the wheels of the chariots literally become heavy. So it's like when you don't give appropriate honor or respect, you yourself start becoming weighted down. And also, right, why will this happen? Because God wants all of Egypt to know that God is God, right? So that's a trope throughout the Exodus narrative. Vayugad lamelech Mitzrayim ki varach ha'am v'yafech levav Paro v'avadav el ha'am v'yamru ma zot asinu ki shilachnu et Yisrael me'avdenu. Okay. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his courtiers had a change of heart about the people and said, "What is this we have done, releasing Israel from our service?" V'ye'esor et richbo v'et amo lakach imo. He ordered his chariot and took his force with him. V'kach shesh me'ot rechev bachur v'kol rechev Mitzrayim v'shalishim al kulo. He took 600 of his picked chariots and the rest of the chariots of Egypt with officers in all of them. V'chazek Adonai et lev Paro melech Mitzrayim v'yirdof acharei b'nei Yisrael u'b'nei Yisrael yotzim b'yad Ramah. And God stiffened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he gave chase to the Israelites as the Israelites were departing defiantly, or with a sense of strength. V'yirdofu Mitzrayim achareihem v'yasigo tanchonim al hayam kol sus rechev Paro u'farasha v'chelo al pi hachirot lifnei Baal Tzafon. The Egyptians gave chase to them, and all the chariot horses of Pharaoh, his riders, and his warriors overtook them encamped by the sea near Pi Hachirot. Again, we're back to the location names, although it's been truncated now. So before the mouth freedom and before Baal Zephon, so and before the Egyptian god. Okay, so we did this Rashi. Seeing any quick comments before we go on? So of course, with the Israelites poised before the sea and with the Egyptians at their back, they're absolutely terrified, right? That makes sense. And as we'll see, the Israelites will freak out. We actually did this in Beit Midrash this past week, I think the week before too. They want to go backwards, right? And this begins their trope of wanting to go backwards, right? And it makes sense. You know, in Beit Midrash this past Tuesday night, Asher Chaim was standing up for the Israelites. Of course it makes sense that they were terrified and they would want to go backwards. What else would they want to do facing the sea with the Egyptians at their back? So they're at a moment of utter impossibility, right? So Ufaro hikriv yas'u b'nei Yisrael et einehem v'hinei Mitzrayim nosea achareihem v'yir'u ma'od yiz'aku b'nei Yisrael el Adonai. So as Pharaoh drew near, the Israelites caught sight of the Egyptians advancing upon them, greatly frightened. The Israelites cried out to God. So this is really interesting because they cry out to God, but they talk to Moses, right? So in verse 11, V'yamru el Moshe hanibli ein kvarim b'Mitzrayim l'kachtanu lamut b'midbar. Were there no graves in Egypt, they say, that you took us? There are not enough graves in Egypt that you took us to die in the wilderness? What'd you do to us to take us out of Egypt? Like, we don't want to be part of this enterprise. Like, we are not on board with this. Hello, zeh adavar asher dibarnu elecha b'Mitzrayim. Leimor, chadal mimenu v'na'avdat et Mitzrayim, ki tov lanu avod et Mitzrayim, mi mutenu b'midbar. And is this not the thing that we told you in Egypt? In other words, we told you so. We knew this would happen. Saying, let us be, and we will serve the Egyptians. Like, leave us alone. We just want to serve the Egyptians. Don't disrupt the status quo. Why? For it's better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. Right? So why would they want to face death? Okay. Why is that funny, Rachel?
Sometimes I get that same feeling.
Sometimes you get that same feeling, like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
What's the end of that sentence? Leave me alone, what?
I'm really not needed.
I'm really not needed in this fight. I just want to have my little old life.
I have osteoporosis. If you look at me sideways, I could break a hip and die right on the spot.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, you know.
You're 80-something years old.
Pardon
Right?
me?
You're 80-something years old. Is that right?
87.
87 years old. So leave me alone already.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And those of us who don't have impaired hips and are younger also feel that way. It's like, leave me alone. I just want to live my little life.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, Marla.
Things are bad enough that in the
Pharaoh's
Pharaoh's
just
bad
make
enough
sure the
to
speaker goes around.
Pharaoh's bad enough to begin with, and yet God stiffens Pharaoh's heart. It's like it feels like it's just compounding.
I knew this would come up.
Oh,
I
don't
prepared
wanna-
myself for it.
I don't want to.
No, it's okay. We
I don't
discussed it a
wanna
little last week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say two things. But you're right, it makes it worse. So why does it make it worse? It seems like, at least in the literature, God wants God's self to be known by the Egyptians. So it's like bringing it to a head.
Okay.
Right? But that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it, thank you, Victor, is like, we also discussed this last week. Like, sometimes a habit becomes so ingrained that it feels like a compulsion, like it's not coming from you, but it's just like, okay, I keep doing this, but it's not me who's doing it.
So Pharaoh's suffering from repetition compulsion.
Exactly. And the last way to look at it, or a question I will ask is, why do you think the story was told in this way, in such a way that that describes the divine as hardening Pharaoh's heart? So that's just a question I'll put out there. As opposed to God stiffening God's heart, why is the story being told this way? Does that make sense, that question? It sort of
Yes.
does something different to the literature.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, Danny and then Ronnie Sharpman. Okay, let's just make sure you have a,
Microphone of some kind.
yes.
So just like an observation, and I'm not sure what to make of it, but like in the first source, God tells Moses like,
Could you, Caroline, do you mind muting people so we don't have competing
Absolutely.
movies on the screen? Thank you.
yep. So in the first passage, God tells Moses, "This is exactly what's going to happen, and Pharaoh's going to come after you." And then Moses doesn't seem to like relay that to the people at all. Moses just like it just says, "And the people did so." So Moses tells the people, "We're going here," and they go here. And I guess there was like no way for him to say, "We're going to go there, and then you're going to get attacked, and it's going to be fine." So he just sort of leaves that part out. Right, it sort of reminds me of like CDC masking guidance at the beginning of COVID. Right, it's like what can we tell people in a moment of great fear in order to like get them to act, you know? So anyway, and then
But you're saying it's an absence of communication.
it's an absence of
Yeah.
communication, and like I'm not sure he had a choice, right? And then it makes sense that the Israelites would react the way they do when Pharaoh comes,
We don't
right?
have a frame by which to interpret it.
Right.
Like we're giving out ice packets today so that to like increase, preparedness, right? And know what to expect and know what to do. Absolutely. It also reminds me of, the reason, at least according to the commentators, and also you can see this in the text, that the people created a golden calf is they didn't know when Moshe was coming back. Like Moshe's doesn't always know how to connect between heaven and earth, right? He's like much better that way than this way.
Yeah.
But I think that's important. Like, how are they supposed to interpret this? Like, we're supposed to be walking out to freedom, but the Egyptians are on our back. So it contradicts everything that they were expected to sort of understand about that moment.
Yes, there's
Yeah.
like moments where we walk forward in principle, where we walk forward in faith, and then there's moments where we get a little push by desperation. And like I feel like that dialectic is here.
Nice. Okay, Ronnie and then Aaron.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. My association with the Israelites stuck in that rocky place was in Homer between Scylla and Charybdis, and we say in English being stuck between a rock and a hard place. So it's clearly a metaphor that we all understand on some very, very basic, almost unconscious level. And if I may take 2 minutes for an anecdote that I think is relevant. My husband, Joe, was registering Black voters in the famous Freedom Summer in Mississippi in 1964. And he and a colleague went to services in the local Reform synagogue. And it was clear that they were not part of the usual congregation. And the rabbi came up to them afterwards and said, "You boys here with SNCC, with the civil rights?" And they said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, we don't want any trouble down here." God knows the Jews of the South did not have an easy time, but this particular congregation in Clarksdale was not going to throw itself behind the freedom movement because they just didn't want to rock the boat.
Not only rock the boat, but literally taking their lives into their hands. And we saw that, right, from the people who were murdered then and are murdered now. So yes, it's rocking the boat, but with real stakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, Ronnie. Thank you for sort of enlarging our frame in both in terms of Homer and your husband's experience, Joe's experience in the South. I've always wondered like where that came from between a rock and a hard place. So that's great.
Homeric comparisons are always really good for these texts because it would have been composed around the same time.
Sorry, Thomas, could you put the microphone near you, please? Thank you.
Just a footnote that Homer is always a good friend for Talmudic and study because the Odyssey and the Iliad are also Bronze Age texts and they're quite contemporary to many of the historically understood texts that we are studying.
Thank you. Aaron, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if this came before Homer or after, but it's definitely one of the first examples in history where people are saying that this past that was really bad, objectively terrible, we had to get out of there. It's better than what we have right now. And this misplaced sentimentality for bad times is a common human problem. You saw it in Europe after the Soviet Union fell, and it didn't take long for Russians to talk about what a great thing communism was for them. It's
But here they're not saying it was great. They were just saying like
it's better than this.
it's safer, right? We're not gonna. We wouldn't have died.
This new thing that
It's
we're in.
not.
now is
They
bad.
do idealize the past later on, but not quite yet. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure I idealize the past, but I often want to go back to the 20th century. Okay, I see David S. online.
Thank you. I don't exactly know how to word this, but I once asked my rabbi about the license plates from New Hampshire that say "Live free or die." That's their motto: "Live free or die." And I said to my rabbi, "Is that does that conform with like Jewish thought?" And she thought about it for a little bit because she was like surprised by the question, and she gave like a non-committal answer and said, "Well, kind of, if you're in a place, yeah, if you live not free, at least you have the opportunity to become free. So it's better than dying." But I'm thinking maybe there are situations where where choosing to live free or die is more of a I don't know how to say it, is more of an active choice.
So it reminds me of Rabbi Akiva in the Talmud, who chooses death over, idol worship, or, or sort of allowing the Romans to have him desecrate his own religion. And then he dies with the Shema on his lips. So that's one of our examples. Yeah.
That's different.
It is different. It is different.
Yeah,
It's not.
that's different. That's
it's
great.
It's the Talmudic version of that.
Right, but he chooses death over violating a prescription of the Torah. It's not that he's going to die in order to maintain freedom in his freedom to worship. He's not dying in order to maintain his freedom of worship. He's dying in order not to violate.
Correct, absolutely. But in both cases, like, what is most precious to you that you're willing to die for that? That's the connection I'm making.
Yeah, but I thought the question that David S. asked his rabbi was more interesting, whether the Torah would say, yes, you should die in order to live free of oppression, free of an undemocratic government. I think that the Torah would say no.
Yeah, I agree. And David's rabbi did say no.
But the Torah
Absolutely.
clearly says if you're told to worship an idol, you should choose death.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Asher Chaim, did you want to weigh in on this? I saw your hand before.
Yeah, for a brief moment. There are times when we have to be willing to die to pursue our freedom. Think of the Maccabees. And times when we have to lay low and accept subjugation, like Yochanan ben Zakkai. So history is complicated, and it's never a simple binary choice.
Thank you. Paul.
In a similar vein, one of the interesting things to me in this story and other stories in the Torah is how emotionally complicated it is, and how it recognizes failures as well as successes. And for me, the statement of Moshe to his followers, the first thing he says is, "Do not be afraid," which to my ears seems a spectacularly stupid thing to say. Because they're afraid for very good reasons. And to say, don't be afraid, is worse than a useless thing to say. There are other things that he could say. Most people would nowadays believe that you should acknowledge the fear and then propose a way to manage the fear, which he then proceeds to do. But the first thing out of his mouth is nonsensical, and then he adjusts course. And so it's interesting to me that in this text, we have a sterling example of our leader screwing up.
And there are other examples of Moshe screwing up. Yes, yes.
First of all, you had
Wait, but Tony, you need a microphone.
Paul, Sir Paul, you had me at text. Second of all, I'm reminded of that great song in Prince of Egypt which Rabbi Diane brought up recently, Prince of Egypt, where the line is, by the way, Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston singing it and knocking it out of the park with, though hope is frail, it's hard to kill, we are not afraid even though there's much to fear. It's a paradox, but got to go into battle fighting the good fight without, if you're going to be a good warrior even, you need to not be afraid. I mean, I even know that from football days.
I agree with that, but I guess the only thing that I would say in response is don't deny the fear, manage your fear, use your fear.
Or use it like as an adrenaline. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. Yes. Okay, let's go on to Rashi, and then, I see Marcia. Is it a quick comment? This is going to be the last comment, and then we're going to go on with the text. Yeah.
The thing about fear,
yeah.
Don't be overwhelmed by it. It is unreasonable to ask people not to be afraid. But just don't let it overwhelm you, and keep pushing through it if you possibly can.
Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you. Okay, so now let's look at this Rashi, because the Bratslav text, which we'll have to go to soon, otherwise we don't have time to get to it, is largely based on this text. So this is Rashi on the Song of Songs. And what the rabbinic tradition does, it's really beautiful. It aligns the love song, which is Song of Songs, and it's a love song where a man and a woman profess their love to each other and have this endless search for each other and kind of never really find each other. And they align that love song with the Israelites and God, right? So they make it a love song on a different level. Some people hate the fact that the rabbis did that because it sort of robs the original love song of its eros, and other people love it because it's another level upon which we can read the song. So you choose, you decide how you want to interpret this. But in any case, this is what Rashi says here, picking up on the Midrash. It picks up on the words, "My dove in the clefts of the rock, show me your face, let me hear your voice." And it says, "Yonati b'chavei hasela." So my dove in the clefts of the rock. Ze ne'amar ha'ota sha'a sherada paro achareim v'tzigam chonim al hayam ve'ein makom lanus lifneihem mipnei hayam v'lo lihifanot mipnei chayot ra'ot. So this is speaking about, so the image of the dove in the cleft of the rock is talking about the moment that the Egyptians are running after the Israelites and found them encamping on the sea, or before the Sea of Reeds, and there's no place to escape because of the sea. And there are also these wild animals, right? So that's how the rabbis imagine this moment. Lema hayu domin ba'otah sha'ah. What were the Israelites like at that moment? Liyonah, to a dove, shebarachat mipnei hanetz. To a dove that is running away because of a vulture, v'nichnasa b'nikikei haslaim, and is entering the clefts of the rock. V'haya hanachash noshef ba, and there's a snake hissing at her from within the rock. So there's really nowhere to go. תיכנס לפנים, הרי הנחש תצא לחוץ, הרי הנץ. So if she goes in, right, there's the snake, and if she goes out, there's the vulture. Amar la hakadosh baruch hu. So God says to her, Har'ini et mar'ayach. Show me your face. What does that mean? Et kishron pa'ulatech. L'mi at ponah be'et sarah. So God says to her, show me your face, meaning like your spiritual works, who you turn to at a moment of crisis. And then, hashmi'ini et kolech, let me hear your voice. And then, vayetzaku b'nei Israel el Adonai, and the Israelites turned to God and cried out to God. So in other words, here they are trapped, and what do they do, or what should they do? Cry out to God. Because there's danger within, and there's danger without, and there's danger to the sides. I saw a thought bubbling up, and I thought it wanted to come out. But
I'll let you know when it gets there.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so you know what? Let's do one more piece of Torah, and then we're going to go to Nachman and see what they do at that moment. See what the Hasidim do at that moment. Okay, so what does Moshe say? This is what Paul was referring to, anticipating this moment. Vayomer Moshe el ha'am al tira'u. Actually, let me give Asher Chaim a chance to read, if you would. Exodus 14, 13 to 19.
And I'm just trying to enlarge the text so I can see it well. Vayomer Moshe el ha'am. Moshe said to the nation, Al tira'u, do not fear. Hityasevu u'ra'u et yeshu'at Adonai asher ya'aseh lachem hayom. Stand up and look at the salvation of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh that God will do for you today. Ki asher item et Misraim hayom lo tosifun lir'otam ad olam. Because as you are looking at the Egyptians today, you will never again see them ever, forever.
So just to stop here for a minute, this actually relates to Danny's point before. Like, why didn't Moshe warn them? If Moshe warned them, they might not be as afraid at this moment. Like, this is the frame by which Moshe is inviting them to look at this encroaching enemy. Okay, go on.
Adonai yillachem lachem v'atem taharishun. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh will go to war on your behalf, and you may stay silent. May I comment?
Go on.
It occurred to me at Wednesday night's amazing, as the Torah turns with Rabbi Ingber, that the problem is he's infantilizing them. He's giving them nothing to do with their shtilkus. And at least with the Passover sacrifice, they had something to do as part of their redemption.
Nice.
Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, ma tiz'ak elai. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh said to Moshe, why are you crying out to me? Even though it was the people. Daber el bnei Israel v'yisa'u. Speak to the children of Israel that they may travel forward. V'atem, v'ata, harem et makdacha unete et yadacha el hayam uv'ka'ehu. And you, raise up your staff and stretch your arm towards the sea and split it open. V'yavo'u b'nei Yisrael b'toch hayam b'yabasha. And the Israelites will enter in the midst of the sea on dry land. V'ani hinneni mechazek et lev Misraim v'yavo'u acharehem. While I, behold, I am strengthening the heart mind of Egypt, that they come in after you. And I will gain gravitas, honor, among Pharaoh and all of his army, his chariots and his horses. And Egypt will acknowledge that I am Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh when I gain honor, gravitas, among Pharaoh his chariots and his horsemen. ויסע מלאך האלוהים ההולך לפני מחנה ישראל, וילך מאחריהם. And the messenger of Elohim, who had been walking in front of the camp of Israel, walked behind them. ויסע עמוד הענן מפניהם ויעמוד מאחריהם. And the pillar of smoke traveled from being in front of them and stood behind them.
Great, thank you so much. So we're going to go from what it says in the Torah now, and with some commentary that we looked at, right? Rashi based on the Midrash and Song of Songs. I'm going to stop my share, and we're going to see what Nachman of Bratslav, 18th century Hasidic master, grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, says. So let me see if I can.
Great-grandson.
Great-grandson?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so let's see. You want to say something? Yeah.
I do.
Go ahead.
I'm about to apologize for what I'm about to say.
Really?
But I just, everybody's in a room and everybody's shaking their heads. I just can't go the same way. Because I got to tell you.
Yeah, tell me.
If I take one of these packages, I leave here, and there's an apartment, and in that apartment are 5 illegal aliens who are murderers and rapists.
You know what, we can't go
No,
this
but I
direction.
stop, I impede ICE from taking them out, and God forbid, one of those people murders someone, am I then responsible? But I don't know what they're doing, I don't know who those people are, I know nothing, but I should take a whistle and impede
So I think the question
a
is,
government official.
is rule of law at this moment and how they're proceeding.
No, but
you know what? I don't think we should discuss this now.
Of course, it's too dangerous. No, it's too dangerous. I don't want to. I apologize.
No, don't apologize. Don't apologize. But I think part of the problem is the way I started was with an assumption that everyone was on the same page, and we're not all on the same page. So I understand why you're saying what you're saying, and I appreciate that. We're not all on the same page, but we're going to leave it alone now because that's not what we're talking
about. Okay, but do we have a moral responsibility that's bigger than politics, is my question.
We all have that question right now. We're answering it differently.
Okay.
And we're answering it differently.
And we don't know what's
and
going on in this
you're
room.
answering it as well.
Okay, and I do.
I would really love to say something so that we don't just leave this hanging here. If
No.
that's
Okay, hold on. No, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to shut it down.
I just want to give one fact. This is a documented fact.
No.
Okay.
We all have different sets of facts that we're drawing on. I appreciate, Susan, this is really, I just want to acknowledge, it's really painful that we're coming at this from different directions. And we all, I think many of us feel we have a lot at stake here. And
but it is factual. It's documented that there are less crimes committed by immigrants than citizens.
Rob's going to throw different facts at you, so let's just stop it now.
I think I'm chiming in from Hawaii. I do think it's important to recognize that there are a diversity of opinions and that people who hold a more right-leaning view don't need to feel isolated in this group. There are people with
I appreciate that. The last thing I would want is for Rob to feel isolated.
I'm feeling isolated.
You feel
I'm here in Hawaii. I'm here in Hawaii, and you're not isolated.
Okay, in Hawaii, you're not isolated.
I'm okay, Tony, really.
Okay. Okay, Jay, if it's about this, I'm going to not take your comment.
I'm feeling isolated by the text. Can I say something about it? Please. It seems like, and there's a whole body of humor about this, but it seems like, for me, often God in Genesis is a model of a poor parent. And here, God here is a model of a poor leader. And in part, it's ego. Like, I'm doing most of what I'm doing so the whole world will recognize how great I am. That's part one, and that reminds us of somebody. And part two is ultimately have faith. Everything will have faith in me and how I'm going to pull you out of things, which is to me is also problematic. So I just wanted to mention those two meta or comments.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to let that stand and go into Nachman of Bratslav. Okay, I agree it's really problematic, and we'd have to work for a while to see if other ways of seeing this are possible, and I don't know if they are. Maybe it's just problematic, and we have to sit with that. Okay, lots of hands, but I do want to get to Nachman of Bratslav, so that's what we're going to do. So what Nachman is recalls this moment, and this is based on Reb Nassan, his sort of recorder and transmitter, and go into the Rashi that we just saw. And then after the Rashi, and here I'm going to have the English up for you, and I'll read the Hebrew. Okay, so Nachman sees this moment as a moment of individually feeling trapped and having like the forces, the Yetzer Hara, sort of gaining the demonic side of things, gaining power. And a sense that each of us might have at that moment that there's no way out. Okay, and the text then provides a map for getting out. So I'm going to start from each of one of us experiences, but first I'll read the Hebrew. V'chol inyan zeh over al kol adam be'et shirotze l'chnos be'avodat Hashem. And this whole matter, right, happens upon a person. A person experiences this kind of thing, that Egypt's at their back and they're facing the sea and there's nowhere to go. Or they're like the dove in the cleft of the rock with the snake beneath them and the vulture above them. Every person who wants to enter the service of God experiences this. So what he's saying is that it's not about actually leaving Egypt in a literal way, or he's giving us another way to interpret this on a whole different level, but it's like it's about anyone who wants to approach the service of God. So why is that? Shehayetzer hara v'chelotav, because the evil impulse and all its forces, shehem bechinat paro u'mitzrayim.
Hey, Rabbi, I'm so sorry for interrupting you. Could you zoom out a bit?
I see. You're not actually looking at anything. So let's see. That didn't work. Okay. Hold on. I'm not sure how to make this work over here. Because I see it fine on my own computer screen, but not on the big screen. So I'm not sure what to do. Do you want to try to share it, Caroline?
I can share, yes, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. I just stopped sharing. I'm going to let her do it.
There we go.
Okay, go to the English. Okay. Each one of us experiences below the bolded paragraph. A little farther down, Caroline. Each one of us experiences. Yes, exactly. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Page 2? Each one.
Yes, exactly. Page 2. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so this is the Yetzer Hara v'chelotav. It's the evil impulse or the negative impulse and its forces. Shehen bechinat paro mitzrayim. That's the aspect of Pharaoh and all of Egypt. Rodfim acharav b'kama minei ridifot. Running after him through different pursuits. V'chol kocham mechamat hadinim sheyonkim mehem. And all their power. So the Yetzer Hara sort of feeds off a kind of constriction within. So, in other words, when we're facing the worship of God and we're getting closer to it, then all these constrictions become stronger, and the negative impulse, the Yetzer Hara, feed off these constrictions. Umeitokef hit orurut hadinim shnit orurim alav. And from the power of the awakening of these constrictions, And then, Kemosha Amru Rabbeinu Zal, as our rabbi said in the Talmud in Sotah, Kol hamatzdik et atzmo milmata, matzdikim Allah milmala. So in other words, they're using this rabbinic saying that whoever justifies themselves below will be justified above as a proof text for this process. Okay. Al yedei zeh rodfim oto mikol hatzdadim. By way of this process, he is being pursued from all sides. B'kama minei miniot v'ituvim v'isurim uvilbulim rabim. So he feels sort of all these obstacles and not being able to go forward and sort of being all bound up and confused. V'hu mamash kemo shehaya yitziat Mitzrayim. And he's just like the people who were like trying to leave Egypt. Shemei achorehem radfu hamitzrim. That from behind them, the Egyptians were running after them. Umil lifnehem haya hayam so'er. And before them, the sea was raging. Umitzdadehem chayot ra'ot. And on both sides of them, there were these evil animals, these wild beasts. Ad shelo haya makom lanus b'shum sad. Until there was no place to run on any side. Kamo Yonah sheborachat mipnei hanitz, just like a dove that's running away from the vulture. Umamash, Tony likes this. Umamash bechinot elu ovrim al kol adam harotzeh lechnot ba'avodat Hashem yitbarach. And umamash, really, this is what happens. Like all these aspects overcome a person, a human being who's trying to enter the service of God. May he be blessed. So what he's done is really interesting. He's taken an event that happened, according to the Torah, in a certain time and place, and made it something universal and kind of mythical, and kind of a structure of consciousness. This is what happens when you want to approach the service of the Blessed One. Okay, these are the forces that become stronger and kind of hinder you from approaching. Okay, does that make sense? Amazing. Okay, good. Anyone confused? I'm only taking comments right now about seeking clarity. Yes, Connor.
I have a question for
Yes.
the room.
For the
Has
room.
anybody ever felt really, really cornered and looked up and prayed to God in their life and had it work?
Yes.
Yes. Oh.
Yes.
Anybody want to tell me about it?
Well, let me also expand that question. Has anyone felt really cornered and reached out to somebody and had that work? Like reached out, period. So maybe we could also make it less literal if we're going to make it applicable. Okay, Tomas, do you want to?
Yeah.
Do you have a microphone here?
So you see me thinking. There are two half thoughts, and one I may have to ask forgiveness for. The first is a little bit building on what we were talking about last week, that the miracle is continuous and the reception is discontinuous, and our ability to recognize it is discontinuous. So it's the act of reaching. The act of reaching itself, the asking to be heard, the crying out itself. Like, I do think, in a way I don't even know fully how to articulate, that like whatever enables you to ask for help is already what is helping you. It is literally self-fulfilling. There's no delay. And I've certainly experienced that in my own life, and I've certainly experienced that in the Romemu community. And so to ask is to be answered in a radical way. My second thought, and it's more trivial.
Let me just expand on that for a second. Yeah. So to ask is to be answered. So I don't know if that's always true. I would hope it's always true on some level.
Well, you don't always get the answer that you want, but I think merely discovering within yourself the ability to ask in that moment between the Hulk and the snake, you are already somewhere where you just weren't before.
So I think that's beautiful, and it's a statement of faith. So thank you for that. And the act of reaching out is so connected. You can call that prayer or not call it prayer.
Yeah.
Right. What are you reaching out to? You're saying matters less to the act of reaching out.
Yes, I think so. I think it is somewhere to do with action and not necessarily mere belief. And I think the ethics and the power of action are what takes you through and to that moment.
Yeah. Okay, hold on one second. Caroline, it seems like there's something confusing happening in the chat. If you could troubleshoot that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Tomas.
Oh, and this is the more trivial one and maybe the not universally held opinion, but for me, as I try to approach this text and I worry that a snake is jumping out at me from inside this rock, it's that footnote on the first page about the AI assistant. Like, part of the wonder-working power of these texts is the continuous chain of human consciousness from deep history, and it'll become an increasingly untenable, impossible, and eccentric position which I hold, which is that whenever I encounter evidence of the actions of simulated intelligence on anything, I cease to interact with it. I don't want that in my mind share. For me, it's not a tool. I would never call it a tool. It's an extractive, coercive event.
Is this the comment you're apologizing for, just to be clear?
Well, it's just not a popular opinion.
I see. You have to apologize for unpopular opinions.
Yeah, and it's a little bit off topic, but
let me just say something. Okay, so I know Rabbi Sam Feinsmith fairly well, and he's an amazing scholar and a careful interpreter. Yeah. And I trust that his use of AI is with tremendous human consciousness and a sense of sanctity of this text.
Yeah.
So I just want that might help or not help.
No, it does help. I just always feel obliged never to normalize to this phenomenon.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay.
Thank you for tolerating that.
Tolerated. Okay. I'm going to go on a little bit, and then I'll open things up. So let me just see where I was. Okay. Is that where I am in the Hebrew?
You finished the first page.
I finished the first page. Okay. The Kimi Shirotzel Lechnos. Okay. Yeah, right there, exactly. How did you know? Kimi Shirotzel Lechnos Avodat Hashem Yitbarach Hu Bechinat Yitziat Mitzrayim Mamash. So anyone who wants to again, approach or enter the service of God is in the aspect of leaving Mitzrayim, really, or quite literally. Ki ikar yetziat Mitzrayim hu ma sheyotzin mitum'ah tahara. Because the essence of leaving Egypt is about going from a state of impurity to a state of purity. Mitum'at v'zuhumat paro, from the impurity of the zuhamat.
What is that?
What is that? We're looking.
Zuhama is yuckiness.
Yuckiness. And the yuckiness of Pharaoh, Mitzrayim and Egypt, to holiness and the impurity of Israel, to Moshe Katuv, as it is written, V'hotzi acha et ha'am mitzrayim ta'avdun et Elohim. So, when this nation is taken out of Egypt, they will worship God or serve God. V'zeh muchrach la'avur al kol adam b'chol zman b'chol dor v'tor. And this happens for every human being at every time in every generation. U'kamosha amru rabotenu, and as our rabbis said, may their memory be for a blessing. B'chol, that famous line that is quoted in our Pesach Haggadah from the Mishnah, B'chol dor v'dor chayav adam le'ot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa mi'Mitzrayim. That every generation people are obligated to see themselves, each person is obligated to see themselves as if they personally left Egypt. Okay, so I'm going to do one more paragraph, the next one. וכשבחינת פרעות מצרים, כשהם הסטרה אחרא b'chelotav, and the aspect of Pharaoh and Egypt, that they are the other side, the demonic side and its forces. Rofim achar adam b'vilbulim u'machshavot ra'ot rabot na'od. So the manifestation of this other side, this demonic side and its forces, is in the form of what happens in our mind when we have all kinds of confusions and bad thoughts. Ve'ein lo makom lanus, and there's no place for him to escape. V'lo lepanav, not in front of him. V'lo la'acharav, and not behind her. V'lo min hatzdadim, and not from the two sides. Ki mikol sad misabavim oto b'kama minei v'bulim u'miyot v'yisurim. Because every side, that person is surrounded from confusions and obstacles and suffering. Azai, im yirtzeh lehistakel acharav, b'vadai yitgavru chas v'shalom yoter. And if he looks behind him, then the forces grow even more. Al ken ein takana she'im yitz'ak el Hashem mimakom asher hu sham v'lo yifneh v'yistakel acharav klal. And there's no repair for this. There's no way out of this except for yet crying out to God from the place that that person's in that entrapped sort of place, and not looking behind them. Like that becomes crucial, not looking behind them. Okay, let me just see if there's anything else about this that I want to share. So in the English, in the next paragraph, I'm just looking at it because there's something really beautiful here. No, go up. You were there, right there. Okay, thank you. So this is the aspect of the splitting of the sea of reeds, when the raging waters, which are the aspect of our many intrusive thoughts and confusions, the aspect of the depths of the sea overpower us, so that we are, so to speak, drowning. God forbid, and there's no place to flee, neither forward nor backward nor in any direction, such that our souls in great distress and anguish is in the aspect of, O my dove, in the cranny of the rocks hidden by the cliff. As above, that there is no remedy except to divert our mind and not look back at all, but rather to hasten like a mighty warrior running a treacherous path, passing over all the thoughts and confusions, and continue on the path in which we are engaged, whether Torah, study, or prayer, and the like, without looking back at all, as explained above, but only doing what is ours to do. He also will make reference to the story of Nachshon, because what Nachshon does, the legend of Nachshon, which you can find in different rabbinic sources, is that Nachshon's the person that when all the tribes were sort of arguing about who's going to go first, or that no one wanted to go, there are different versions of the legend, he just walked into the sea. And he walked into his knees and waist, and then shoulders and neck, and that's when the sea parted. And there's the agency that Asher Chaim was referring to, right? Nachshon's the person of agency. Like everyone's arguing, and he just goes forward instead of engaging in the arguments.
I was thinking of Nachshon explicitly earlier when I was talking about the act of the cry itself. Like Nachshon just goes. Like
he doesn't cry out; he just goes.
Right, but
that's different, right?
Well, an action and a speech action, I think it comes from the same impulse.
Yeah.
Like the
whatever it is, it's a moment of agency.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to stop our sharing and take a few minutes, screen sharing, and take a few minutes to share. So I'm going to first call on people who haven't spoken yet. Ruach, did you want to say something?